Hi everyone, on today's demo I'm going to be demoing how to do a cut made from scar wax. It's going to have some glass pushed into it, fake glass of course, some blood, a little bit of bruising, so let's get right ahead with that. So this is all the products that you will need to create the demo. The spirit gum is optional, but all of these bits are going to help you create that gory goodness. You'll also need these little bits as well, so cleanser, toner, cotton buds and cotton pads. So I'm going to start by cleansing the area, and I'm just using a simple cleanser, and I'm going to use that on a cotton pad, and it's just to wipe the area down, make sure we've got no dirt, no makeup. It might take off a little bit of the fake tan if your model's wearing that, so just keep that in mind. And then next I'm going to go in with a toner just to remove any of the excess cleanser, and again just to give us a nice clean slate to work on. Next, what I'm going to go in with is the Murano barrier spray, and I'm just going to spritz that over the area where I'm going to be working, again just to put a little bit of a barrier between the skin and the SFX products that we're going to be using, just because some of the products can be quite harsh on the skin. So today we're going to be working with the Ben Nye Nose and Scar Wax, and it actually comes in fair. It does also come in other shades, so it'll work for a wide range of clients. And I'm also going to be using Vaseline or petroleum jelly. You can also use an oil-based product, whatever you would like. It's just so that our hands are lubricated so that we can work with the scar wax easily. So as you can see, I'm just working the wax into the shape that I want. I'm using the Vaseline that's on the back of my hand just to keep my hands lubricated. Keep rubbing the scar wax round, creating that shape. I'm a little bit indecisive with the shapes. I can never decide what I want to make, but it's up to you guys. Whatever, if you want to go with a cut, so just a slice, then you can do that. If you want to think about maybe nails that have been dug into the skin, a zombie bite, etc., you create whatever you would like to create with this stuff. So now I'm just placing it on the skin, and I'm going to hold it in place so that I can blend it onto the skin. At this point you could have put spirit gum down beforehand, and again that'll just hold it in place a little bit better. I chose not to with this one because I knew it wasn't going to be on the skin for very long. But I'm just holding that scar wax in place, and I'm using the side of my thumb with a little bit of Vaseline from the back of my hand just to blend that into the skin. Now, blending can take anywhere between 2 minutes to sometimes 10 minutes. It really does depend on the area you're working on, you know, how long it takes you to blend, how warm your hands are, because if your hands are quite warm, the scar wax is going to get stickier quite fast. I'm also going in with a spatula as well, just to show you that you can also blend out with a spatula. This is particularly good with anyone who has really long nails, because we don't want to get scar wax stuck under your nails. And it is just a bog standard plastic spatula, and it's got like a curved edge, and that just helps me blend the scar wax into the skin seamlessly. Now you'll notice that I am dipping into the Vaseline quite a lot with my spatula. Again, it's just because if I keep using that spatula without lubricating it, it will just drag through the scar wax and potentially could pull it off the skin. I'm also dipping in with my finger, with it coated in Vaseline, again just to smooth off any edges and keep that blending process going. It is a very long process. However, if it's done correctly, then you will get that really nice seamless edge, and you won't be able to tell where the scar wax starts and the skin starts. nice little tip is just work on somewhere on the skin that's kind of got a harder surface, so something like the palm of your hand, maybe not the middle but just around the outside. Where I'm working on the video, on the forearm is quite a good place. If you've got to work on the face, maybe across the jawline, the cheekbone, the forehead, just somewhere where you can press onto the skin to help blend it out. Anywhere like the cheek, or maybe like a fattier bit on the arm is going to be really difficult for you to blend, so don't make anything harder than it has to be. Just have a go on somewhere that's a little bit easier and work your way up. That's not to say that it's impossible. It can be done, it just takes a little bit more time, and there are better ways of doing cuts on those areas. For example, you could use a prosthetic or you could use latex. So now I'm just coating my spatula in Vaseline, and I'm actually going to cut the cut open now. It's going to make the actual cut in the scar wax. And I've chosen to do this with a plastic spatula because I don't want to harm the client and I don't want to rip the skin open underneath with a scalpel or a knife. So I'm just taking that plastic spatula, coating it in Vaseline, and then I'm sketching through the scar wax. I'm only making really light sketching motions because that's going to cut it open for me over time. And again, this is a little bit of a long process, but if you do it right, it can look really well done. I have chosen with my cut to make it a little bit wider in the middle, and it also forks off at the end as well. That's just my design. You guys can do whatever you like. You can do just a simple long straight one. You can do it so it looks like something's been gouged out. Just get creative with it. So again, with mine, I've taken it thinner at the ends, and I'm now just running my finger over the cut with a little bit of Vaseline, just to smooth out any areas where it's a little bit too ragged for my liking. Again, just widening up the cut in the middle, using my spatula, and I'm popping my finger on the outside of the scar wax just to keep it in place so I have something to push the spatula against. So now it's time to paint the cut, and I'm actually going to use IPA and an alcohol activated paint palette. So this one is the Ultimate FX palette by Dashbo. It does cost around £50-ish, so just keep that in mind when you're stocking your kit up. It is a little bit of a pricey product, however it does work really well, and I don't know how I lived without it, to be honest. So I'm just taking a little bit of the IPA, and I'm using a really cheap brush, to be honest, something that if it breaks I'm not going to be absolutely heartbroken over. And I'm just mixing kind of around 2 drops into the block of paint and painting into the cut. I do apologise, I didn't think before I started filming, and I am actually right-handed, so I should have put the camera on the left side. So hopefully you guys should be able to see sections of this. I've taken this kind of reddish brownish colour and I'm just putting it on the centre of the cut and spreading it out. It's going to sit underneath my blood, so I'm not too bothered about putting tons of shading into this. And again, I've just taken that colour slightly past the end of the cut, just trying to keep it so it looks real. So next I'm actually going in with a darker red colour, and I'm going around where the very edges of the cuts are, and I'm actually taking it up onto the sides of the cuts where it looks like the skin has been pulled back. Because if you think about any area of impact, all the blood will rush to it. So the skin around that area is going to be quite inflamed, it's going to be quite sore. The blood that's coming from inside the cut will probably leak out onto the sides. So I just want to take that paint out there as well. So now I'm actually using my finger to apply this paint. I find that when I use my finger and patting motions, I can create a really good bruise texture. And the best thing about these paints is that it looks like it sits just underneath the skin, so it creates a really effective bruise. I'm starting off with a yellow colour because when you think about the stages of bruising, older bruises will have more yellows and greens. Tapping that green and the yellow up on the top of the cut, making sure I've covered all the areas, thinking about where it would be most inflamed, where it would be most infected. And again, I'm just going in with my finger, and I've taken a little bit of this purpley reddy colour, and that's just to show where the impact is, where all the blood has rushed to. And I'm tapping that on over the top of the scar wax and onto the skin, and I'm doing that in random places all around the cut. So in case you haven't noticed, I've not just gone round in a big circle with my colours, I'm keeping them quite light. I'm tapping them out really, really lightly, making sure I haven't got a big thick layer of cream or alcohol paint in this case. Keep in mind when you're creating your cuts that if you go in with this big thick layer of colour, it isn't going to look real. So just make sure you work lightly and build it up slowly. So I'm now going in with a blue colour, and that's just to offset the yellow and the greens, blend it into the reddy purpley colour I've got. I really like the effect this one gives because I just tap it on the very edge of my finger, and it just comes off in certain places, gives these small kind of dots, and they look like tiny little dots you get in bruises. A little bit more of that red colour just to give it that bit more of an inflamed effect. Now I've actually taken a little bit of the IPA and I'm just rubbing it around the edges of all my colouring because it looked a little bit too bright for my liking. So using the IPA, I can just blend those colours out really lightly. Next I'm going in with Coagulated Blood by Ben Nye. I love this stuff because it looks really disgusting. It's great for filling wounds, and there's lots of different variations you can get of this. I'm sure Murano do another version of it. They do like thick blood as well. And I'm just using my spatula and my brush to coax that really thick blood into the middle of the wound. I do apologise, it's a little bit blurry. But I'm literally just sliding it in and pushing it around with the spatula and the brush to cover the sections that I want. I don't want it all over my cut, I just want it focused in the middle, just about coming onto the outsides, where it looks like the blood has clotted. Now I'm going in with the Murano Stage Blood. I love this stuff because you can create, again, some really gory effects with it. And I'm just using it straight out the bottle. It comes out in small drops, so I'm just holding it slightly above the scar and just pinching the bottle slightly to let out a drop of blood. Blood is a lot runnier than coagulated blood, so you can make some really cool dripping and splatter effects. And I'm just taking a brush as well to guide it in the direction that I want it. There's different ways you can use this. You can actually fill up a water bottle and spray the scar and the blood should drip. Now I'm using something called a stipple sponge, and I'm just using that with the blood that's already on the scar wax, just to press that around and make it look like the blood is splattered out. This is such a useful little tool to have in your kit. You can create some grazes and scrapes with it as well, and it's just fantastic for when you're doing any sort of cuts or even burns work. Now this stuff is called Silly Glass. I'm actually using it by Tilt Makeup, and as you can see, you can bend it. It's just made out of silicone. It's not real glass, but it does look really effective. And you can actually break it into tiny pieces. So all I'm doing is splitting it up into smaller pieces and pushing it in at random intervals into the scar wax. Now this doesn't cause the client any pain whatsoever because it's not even touching their skin, it's just being pushed into the scar wax. This product ranges kind of around £6-ish, but again, an absolute staple in my kit. Our finished result. I've really enjoyed creating this one and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. It does look quite realistic, at least to my standards. So I hope you've learnt something from this demo and you can take that away and create your own gory goodness. So how to remove it. I'm going to use Ben Nye Bonds Off, and that is just because it's such a good remover. Again, a staple to any SFX artist kit. It comes in this orangey liquid, it's only a small bottle, but it's really, really good. And I'm just taking it on a cotton pad. I've soaked the cotton pad thoroughly and I'm just pressing over the scar wax to start releasing the edges. Now scar wax is waterproof, so you won't be able to wash this off with water, you will need an oil-based remover. I've also coated the spatula in Bonds Off, and I'm just slowly edging it away from the skin. Most of it does just slide off because it's already got the bonds off underneath the wax from when we pressed it down with the cotton pad. And it really is that easy to just scrape off. I'm just going over any skin, making sure that if there's any remainders of scar wax, any remainders of the paint, it'll just come off with the bonds off. It's such a nice, soothing liquid, and it also smells of oranges, so it's really nice on the client's skin. finish off by cleansing and toning the skin. So I'm just using the simple cleanser lotion, rubbing it around in really slow, nice movements, making sure we don't irritate the client's skin. And I'm going to go in with the toner just to remove any of the excess cleanser, and again it is another really soothing liquid. Finally, I'm just using a Daily Essentials moisturiser. It just gives a little bit of oomph to the skin. It's really important that you look after your client's skin because SFX products aren't the kindest thing to have on, and it's just nice to finish with that kind of skin routine. So this is our finished result. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see you for the next demo.